rated PG. Parental guidance is recommended.
Environment and exposure, these two aspects play a major role in our habits and possibly even our addictions. Today on Why I Did It, I speak to Agnes, a woman whose environment played a major role in her alcohol addiction. And this is the story of Agnes Wambui. Yes, Agnes. And like I told you before, my mom is also called Agnes. Yes, so I'm really looking forward to see how this is going to be. And today we want to understand your story, why you did it. People don't know what you did yet, so now let's begin. So you can give us a little bit about your childhood background. Will you grow up here, and what was it like for you growing up?
I am the 8th born in a family of 11. 5 girls, 6 boys, and I was born in Nyeri, Mount Kenya, and yeah, that's where I grew up.
Mm-hmm. And the nature of how you grew up, were you close with the parents, with your siblings?
The family, we were close. My father was a rich man, so we had everything we needed. We had a big shamba with a coffee plantation, many cows, goats, pigs, chicken, name it. In our farm, we used to have all kinds of fruits. So the neighbors, or when we were coming from school, we could go through our shamba. Everybody would get all the fruits they need, and it was never charged. Yeah.
Okay.
We had all what we needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we lived in with my aunts and my uncles from my mother's side, and we were a big family. We are always over 15 in the family. Even when my elder brothers were in school, still in the homestead, we were always more than 10, 15, sometimes 20, a big crowd. And I remember our uncles used to cook in a very big pot, almost a half tank, half drum.
Because you guys are many.
We were many. And then sometimes they would put the food on the banana leaves. Those days we never used to have these foods. We used to have mokimo, we used to have mihogo, we used to have sweet potatoes, boiled maize. Those are the kind of food we used to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about your school life?
I joined primary school when I was 5 years because my sister, my firstborn sister, was 18 years when I was born. So she became a teacher before I joined class 1.
Wow.
So where she was posted, I went with her. So I was forced to go to school at age 5, which was very early. Those days, children used to join school after 8 years, 9, 10. Yeah, so I went to school. Very big girls. Yeah. But when I reached class 4, after a year, my sister was brought back home. She used to teach in the neighborhood where everybody went to school. So I had to come back home. And I never used to know who is my mother and who is my sister, because most of the time I was around my sister. Until now, when I started growing up, my father was also a teacher at one point, because my father was so many things. He was a policeman at one point, he was an agricultural officer at another point, he was a headmaster of our school, he was a news presenter in the Kikuyu vernacular. At one point, he was the church secretary in the Catholic Church. He was so many things. And he was also a very good farmer.
So you'd say you grew up in a family with very high discipline levels?
Very high discipline levels, as we can say, because we are Catholics, and everybody was supposed to toe the line. Yeah. So when I was young, I thought we had a perfect family. Yeah. And then being Catholics, my father used to bring so many men and women home so that they may be molded to become Catholic priests. And he also wanted every one of us to become either a nun, Catholic nun, or a Catholic priest, of which we never became. Yeah.
Okay. So now on to our main agenda of the day. We want to understand the choices that you made later on. So talk to us about it.
I went to boarding school in class 6. And then I went to high school near our home. That is in town, in Nyeri town. And so I could come home every evening. It was a day school, the high school, but primary was a boarding school. When I was in class 4, 5, I started seeing different behaviors from my elder brothers and my uncles. They used to drink. So when they drank, they behaved different from the person I saw. And they were also church leaders. So on Sunday they behave in a certain way. Then when they are drunk, they used to behave in, there was violence, there was a lot of shouting. And I remember my mother telling me that I shouldn't even listen to the elders when they are fighting. I should pretend that nothing is happening. So as a young girl, I thought that is the grown-up talk, the insults, the abusive words. And then I told myself, oh, when I grow up, I will insult. And for sure, when I grew up,
You did that?
I learned how to insult. My brothers, fourth born, fifth born, they started, I came to realize later that they were using bang. And this bang is a plantation which used to look like a weed in our local farm, coffee plantation. So you couldn't differentiate the smoking bank with the weed itself. Actually, we all call it the same name. So my father never used to know why some areas in the shamba are not being cultivated. Only to know, to see some plantation put on top of the roof to dry up. And then later on I came to realize they were drying them up for smoking. And us being a well-to-do family, nobody mentioned about it. Nobody talked about it. Until now they started dropping school. And then I would hear my aunt saying that my brothers are being watiifu, disobedient. And then I thought, they are just being disobedient. And because of this behavior, my father also used to drink. And at one point he was a preacher. So on Sunday he would preach love. And then after church he go. Sometimes we would sleep in the coffee plantation. He would pour food, and you see the food is in this very big pot. They would sleep when he was angry, he would beat all of us, and there was no time we were less than 10. So you can imagine us being lined up according to our age.
You line up from the oldest to the youngest.
Because one person did some mischief, then all of us would be beaten.
So he used to do that when he's high?
I didn't know that that is why he was doing it. I thought it was discipline.
That sometimes it is.
Yeah. Let alone when I'm now working and independent, I realized that was it was no discipline. Yeah. So we all went to school up to college level. My father had no problem with paying school fees, so everybody went to school, except now my elder brothers would go to school and then they would drop without the parents knowing that they don't go to school because of the smoking and the drinking. Yeah.
Okay. So, and you were watching all this?
I was watching all this as an eighth-born, and I hated it. I was watching the behavior of my uncles, and remember I told you my mother would not allow me to mention or even to complain about my elder brothers or my uncles' behavior. So I always kept quiet.
So because they were older than you?
Much, much older than me.
So that's why your mom didn't want you to comment about it?
Okay. In our family, nothing was talked about. The secrets of the home were kept in the home. And then everybody else outside thought that this is a perfect home. It was supposed to be a perfect home. So whatever was going on in the family, the violence, as a child I was not allowed even to think about it. And I would be beaten because of thinking about it. Yeah. I used to be those girls who are quick to notice something bad, and then I would tell my father. And then I would be beaten by my brothers and my mother and my uncles. Everybody would in turns because I'm disobedient. So when I finished secondary school, I vowed not to stay near that home. I didn't know why, but I went far away. I went to work in Nakuru that time there was no problem of getting a job after Form 4. So I requested to be taken to Nakuru so that I may be very far away from home. I didn't know why. Later on I came to realize I didn't like the behavior, so I was running as far as possible. And then I said that I would never marry somebody who drinks or smokes, and I would never drink or smoke.
Okay.
Yeah. And for sure, I stayed for 2-3 years. I found this man who used to work in the post office, and then he was from another district, Moranga district, so he pretended very well for 2 years that he does not drink, he does not smoke, until I got my firstborn son.
You had to pretend so he can win you over.
Mm-hmm. When I got my firstborn son, he left me in the internet, and he never came back. I think he came back after 4 years. And I was only 19. So I was living alone in Rift Valley in Naivasha, and I didn't have anybody from the family there. And then he comes drunk. I didn't know that he was drunk. I just thought that he was overjoyed by me giving birth to a baby boy, who in our culture is his father. So he was excited about me giving birth to his father, only to realize that the same thing I was running away from, within the next 3-4 years, he was full drinking. All that time I never drank, I never took any interest in any drink, but now friends, he left the post office and became a technical teacher. So we went to live in a technical school. And that's where now the drama started, because every weekend he would bring the teachers home with their girlfriends and the wives. They would drink. We were having parties every other weekend. My elder sisters would come, we would party. Them they were drinking. I didn't drink.
And this time you stayed away.
I stayed away. I could serve beer, I could, but smoking, they never exposed smoking, although later on I came to realize they were also smoking bang. But him being a technical school teacher, I never thought that these things are done by educated people. I thought they were done by the people who never went to school. The people who never went to school. Until I gave birth to my second-born son, which was 5 years apart. And this boy now, who was named after my father, after the first year, the first birthday, that's the day he put some alcohol in my soda, my husband. Yeah, and that's where now the dancing started. And the next 4 years, I didn't know what I was doing, or I didn't know who I was anymore.
Let's talk about that first time. So he put alcohol in your soda, and then from there, so it was just a little bit of it or a considerable amount?
I didn't know whether it was much or little, but I felt high, I felt different.
Okay.
And then I remember after 2-3 weeks, I could take myself to the bar and order a drink on my own. And then I came to realize after 2-3 months, I didn't want to go home. I could drink the whole night, whether with him or without him. And even before I started drinking, we used to fight. He was a very good fighter also, just like my father.
So everything that you experienced growing up,
I found it in my husband's home. In fact, his father was just like a transfer from this home to the other one. The violence. I never used the drug. Reason I don't know, but my husband used to smoke. It never interested me. And then my husband was so good that whenever I wanted to drink, I would just go to any bar in town. I would take as much as I would want, and I would leave the bill there. He would come paying. And he never used to question, how many were you, why are you taking so much?
So do you feel like this encouraged?
Enabling,
Yeah.
we call it enabling, yeah. He's the one who enabled. But now, unfortunately, when I had hangover, either I'm not going to work, or I had withdrawn my body, dehydration and all that, and kept. Bathing was a problem, so I looked ugly at age 25, going to 30. I looked so old. So we would fight over it, and then the following day we would make up, and I would get more beer because of the yesterday's violence. Then my first 2 boys really suffered because of our drinking, but we used to have very good house help who we used to pay double the salary, so that they may take care of the boys. Now there were 2, and us, me and my husband. So when I have the hangover, I can't bathe, I can't feed myself. Maybe the child is suckling, I can't help. So the lady was the one taking care of us as well as the children. Yeah.
And was this a concern for, say, the rest of your family members, your mother, your father?
My parents they didn't notice that I was drinking because I lived far away from home.
So for you, well, why would you say you got into the drinking?
I didn't have a reason to drink, but I think I had the allergy. Coming from an alcoholic environment, my body used to wait for that one day that when I drink, I will show them. And it was subconscious in my head. Because even when I started, and then I found myself I couldn't stop, it never bothered me because everybody else did it. My whole family was drinking. When now we separated, when he left, I think it stopped because I didn't have anybody to buy beer for me. And then I think I had gotten tired of the dramas. It didn't automatically come to a stop. I became sick.
Oh, and now that's what I want us to talk about after the break, the journey to recovery and what you're doing right now. And we are taking a very short break here on Why I Did It, but the story of Agnes Wambui continues on the other side of the break. Don't go too far.
Jehovah turns my life around. Jehovah turns my life Proverbs 19 verse 4, it says, rich people are always finding new friends, but the poor cannot keep the few they have. You reign forevermore. Oh.
The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life.
Says yes, my soul says yes to the Lord. He has given us power, hallelujah.
Sunday School, Sundays at 11 a.m. only on Look Up TV.
Welcome to the Natural Juicing Center. We are a unique organization that seeks to provide the community with an alternative healthcare option. We specialize in the use of a natural holistic system that focuses on building health through cleansing and nourishing of the body. We utilize a variety of natural health promoting methods in our services, which include juicing therapy, hydrotherapy, colon cleansing, massage therapy, and a comprehensive cleansing service, among others. Our juices are freshly made and tailored to each and every client's individual needs after evaluation by our team through our free consultation service. You can now book for any service or order for food supplements on our website www.naturaljuicingcenter.co.ke. You can also visit our center in Kahawa Sukari, house number 1334, Kahawa Sukari Avenue. Natural Juicing Center. Your health is your wealth.
You guys have to tweet about this. What phone is this? Hey, looks good. How much is it? You haven't heard of the Optiven offer? No. I must excuse you, invest too. Optiven has this amazing offer. If you make a commitment of 900k in any of their value-added projects, you get rewarded with a cool smartphone, bro.
Like, follow, subscribe, click the notification button. Join the Look Up TV movement now.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with Look Up TV. This is Why I Did It, a show where we bring you testimonials of people who have made choices and they've decided to turn their lives around. And you can also get a chance to share your story with us using the SMS number 20374 at Look Up TV on Twitter and Look Up TV on Facebook. But for now, the story of Agnes Wambui continues. Yes, Agnes, now let's talk about that recovery journey. So just before the break, you were telling me how now after the separation is when it started kicking in. So take us through that.
After my husband left home with another woman, I was left. First he took away the other big boys, and then I was left with the small one. So I didn't have somebody to buy beer for me. I also got kind of ashamed that my marriage had gotten long, and we had a big wedding. So for me it was a big shame. That's how I slowed down drinking. And then I didn't have enough money to drink. I had already gotten so many loans from my workplace that the money left was not enough for my upkeep and also to buy me alcohol. And then I became diabetic. When I became diabetic, that's the time the doctor told me that you can't drink and take insulin. So I was given that choice. I choose to continue drinking, then I die, or I stop drinking and then I continue with my medication.
It was a life and death.
It was a life and death decision. And I remember one day I thought that the doctor is not clever. I will skip the medicine today, then I will drink. And I remember getting a blackout. That's the time later on I came to realize it was a blackout. I came to the following day after more than 24 hours. And by that time I was suckling my firstborn. So I was being told that you passed out yesterday. Today is a Sunday evening and I couldn't know what happened because I skipped taking insulin. I took alcohol. That was my last drink. When I went to the doctor, I was told, but we told you, you can't drink with this diabetic condition. So it came like, you mean they were serious? And then I became so desperate that I decided, after all, my life is not as important. If they say that if I continue drinking, I will die, it's better I die. By that time now, I'm having my 4 boys living with me in Nairobi with a very small salary. I have to pay rent, I have to feed them, and they used to eat a lot. The boys, wow. So one day I'm just sleeping in the church. I used to go to sleep in the church. At the back, it was a big church, so nobody would notice that I'm sleeping. And I had a priest saying, if you are drinking and you would want to stop, there is a program, a 2-step program. And then he added, he said, if you live with a problem drinker and you are troubled with how he is drinking or she is drinking, there is a program for you. So to me, I didn't go because I thought that I had a drinking problem. I went to report my husband. Because he's the one who had given, he was the one who had ruined the marriage. He's the one who gave me the alcohol in the first place. He's the one who did everything wrong. I was the good one. So I went. And then the priest, I found the same priest in a room, and he asked me, have you ever drunk? Yeah. How did you stop? I was encouraged by a doctor. Maybe you have a drinking problem. Let's talk about you. Let's not talk about your husband. He is not here. Yeah. So, but he was clever. He encouraged me to join about 4 or 5 programs at the same time. I joined the program for my stopping drinking. That was the program. I also joined a program of families who live with alcoholic addicts. I also joined a program of, we still call it adult children, people who are adults who have lived with alcoholism when they were growing up or addiction. And I also joined another program called codependency. How I picked somebody who is using or drinking, that I had a relationship problem. I had a problem picking relations. I always picked unhealthy relationships. So I was introduced to 4 programs at the same time. You would go on Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Fridays. Not that I knew that this is the program for me. I didn't have anywhere else to go. And then the priest promised me that whenever I come for these programs, I would eat biscuits, which I loved so much. And remember, I'm diabetic and I'm taking a lot of biscuits. And then I would come with my children. They would eat in the same room, and they were never, they could eat as much as they would want. So we used to go to those meetings because of the biscuits.
Because of the goodies that you're getting.
Yeah. And then I found people who are laughing and telling me that I'm a good person. For the first time, somebody told me that I'm a good person. It's only that I'm sick. And I remember that time my skin was kind of a navy blue. It was a laugh because of unkept. Even the oil could not. Yeah. And then the neck was a bit taller. These bones, you could see them from far, unkept. And I never used to bathe every day because when I'm drunk, my body could not take cold water. Yeah. And I'm going to the office. I was reduced to, I had already gone for accounting. So I was an accounts officer, but I was reduced to watching the cups in the office. And I'm the boss there. But I'm reduced to watching the cups because of my hopelessness. So when I joined this program, I was told, no, you are a good person. You can go back to your position. And believe in me, within 6 months, I had gone back to my position. I became a very joyful person. My children became very joyful, very prayerful. They could dance. And everybody thought, oh, this now the time she has gone crazy. But with the time, I started now getting my skin lighter.
You finally go back to being your
being
self
me
now.
Yeah, and now talking about it and saying addiction is a disease, how they can recover. And the older people, the people who had been in the program for some time, they would teach us how they have walked this journey. And then there were religious people who used to say that they also drank themselves silly. And never that religious people would mess their lives. Yeah. They could come openly and talk about themselves. And then I met the white people, the people from America, Europe, India, talking about their addiction freely. I enjoyed that. They would invite us to their houses. We would go and eat a lot of meat, a lot of chicken, a lot of anything we would want without them limiting us. I enjoyed. I even remember them telling me that now I'm one of them, so I don't have to fear asking for anything. That is the first time anybody told me that I'm important.
It made you feel?
I felt important, and for sure I became. Yeah.
So now let's talk about what you do now.
Since that time I joined the recovery program, I was told that if I want to keep sober, I have to go looking for other people to help. If I don't help people with addiction, I won't keep it. I won't keep my sobriety. So it was not a choice. It was something which was given to me by we call them old timers. That if I don't go looking for the alcoholics, addicts out there, including my own husband, I will go back to the drink. So I started going around talking to alcoholics, addicts, not because I liked them, but because I feared going back. Yeah. And this is what I have been doing all those years. And I found the people, that time we could easily go to the informal settlement and get out. There were no mugging those days. We would go in, we would talk about alcohol, drug use, and they would follow us. They would stop. I would feel, Then I started seeing, that time we were only 4 women in the group, the whole of Nairobi, 4 women, and 2 of them were whites. So me and another lady, we were the only blacks. So I started seeing other women coming, younger women, older women, religious women, religious men. And then I told myself, oh, so this is a disease. They took me for training, for counseling course. I got the skills. They also, the old timers exposed me to go to all towns, most of the towns in Kenya. We used to go and talk about how to live with alcoholics. But me, I became interested in the families, the suffering of the family, the dishonesty in the family, the misuse of money, the maiming, the abuse, the physical, the emotional. So I became more interested in the helping the family. So whenever we would go to a place, they would always tell me to talk about the suffering of the kids, how the kids sleep in outside the house or under the bed, and how the kids could go without food. Those are the areas I've been more interested in. But at the same time, I tend to love alcoholics and the addicts more than anybody else. Me, I've been waking sometimes at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. I would walk at night just to go and talk to an alcoholic or an addict. It's like a calling, not a profession. And by that time, there were no rehabilitation centers. It was only one in Kenya, which was in Homa Bay. And people thought that it was for the lunatics. So we never,
the idea then?
we never used
the whole concept.
to encourage people to go to the rehab. And then they could not afford. So we would encourage people to come to the programs. That time we only used to have programs over the weekend or in the evening after work. But these days there are meetings every other 2-3 hours. There are fellowships all over. So we started encouraging people to open groups outside Nairobi. And now I was engaged in going all around. Remember, we were very few women. So when I would start there and talk about my alcoholism, all the women would say, oh, you mean you can talk about it and it's okay? Then I encouraged them to talk. And then I became interested in going to the informal settlement in the slums. Earlier on, before all this COVID thing, we used to have churches sponsoring women to the rehabilitation centers, all different churches. So I would go and I would counsel somebody. If she is interested, I would ask a certain institution to sponsor. And many of my friends have gotten out of their addiction through that. I've seen many ladies going back to school, and then many of them have gotten married, and life have gone back to normal, or they have become better.
Even better people.
Better people.
Okay. And so when you were actively drinking, when you were an addict, your kids were young then. So, and it obviously affected them even at that age. So what would you say is your relationship right now with your sons?
When I joined the program, the father was still drinking and using. So for 10 years, we didn't connect with him. But every other, we have a 12-step program. And every year we are asked to go and look for the people who we need to reconcile with. So every year I would encourage them to go and look for their father. I would also go to look for him, not for the union, but for them to realize that this is because of the addiction. That's why we went separate ways. And that way I've gotten my friends back, or the people I had when I was using, including the boys now, the children. When I joined the program, they also went for counseling. They got a lot of encouragement from the older people in the program, the men figure. So they were all mentored, and they became who they are because of the mentorship of the people in the program.
And there's something you were telling me before we even started the interview, that when you are an addict, there are people that you affect around you, so many people. If you can just talk a little bit about that.
The American study have statistics that one alcoholic, one addict affect another 30 people around him or her.
A whole 30 people.
30 people. And we thought that it was exaggerated because it was from America, not from Africa. Until now we went on the ground, and then we started talking to the families. Somebody who is far away from, who has never come closer to me, but he would say, we used to see you drunk, and we would say, what is the reason for going to school if you end up this way? What's the reason of working so hard if you would end up this way? What's the reason of getting married in church if we would become this way? And when I stopped, that's the time people came telling me, you look so ugly. We are glad you stopped. That's the time now they come telling me that I was not doing well. Now, I also lost a lot of friends. All the people I used to drink with, when I stopped, they became my enemies. Today, I have more friends in the streets. People who will call me mom, sister. And then I would encourage them, why don't you come to a certain place on a certain day? We will encourage you. If you want to go back to school, we'll encourage you, we'll get you a sponsor, you'll go back to school. And many have gone back to school that way.
And even as we finish, we know that alcohol addiction, drug addiction, it cuts across. It affects a lot of young people, yes, but there are so many people, even married people and even older people, who are still affected by drug and alcohol abuse. So what would your advice be to people who are trying to get out? Say especially in like the marriage setup.
Especially now that people have to stay in the house, and many marriages, many homes now, people have come together. It has become very, very dangerous. There is a lot of violence in homes because a man could go and drink until morning. Now he has or she has to be in the house by 9. And I have experienced a lot of violence in the homes, which is not, I feel sorry for the family, especially the children. So we would encourage the people who have drunk and stopped to come out and help the others who want to stop.
They are the best people to actually...
They are the best people to encourage. They understand.
There.
Otherwise the preacher will start there at the pulpit, you go straight to hell. Addiction is not a sin, it is a disease. Yeah. I wish it could come out. And then the government, it needs to do more about especially the mental health. I've been dealing with so many young people with bipolar, schizophrenia, other mental conditions. They are sometimes misunderstood, and then the family will not understand what to do with these young people. And it is very simple to help such a person. In fact, I practice here. When somebody just comes in, before we even talk about anything, I give him food. That quiets the mind. Yeah. Just like the diabetic, it quiets the mind. Simple. Very simple. And then not expecting too much. If I have become an addict or an alcoholic, my family should not expect too much from me. This is a disease like any other. Let me be given time or all the assistance I need to get well or to choose to get well. And then it should be encouraged that as many institutions, rehabilitation centers, let them be affordable, but they should be geared to the holistic well-being of the person. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Through an abusive-filled marriage to a painful life of addiction, Agnes knows all too well that until families can sit down and talk about issues, then the problem of addiction remains a nightmare. I am Nancy Nalima. Thank you so much for watching.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations.